Good morning. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome into Denver Sports Coffee Break. Does anybody else miss our countdown music just a little bit? Like, I think.
Yeah. What happened to it?
Just when we transitioned, big things are coming on the horizon for Coffee Break. We're all very excited about it. I'm very excited about it. So we're looking towards the future, and things are changing there. So that's why we didn't get a new one. But
I miss it, though.
I know, me too. I feel like it was always like, na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Although it's Rachel with Coffee Break. I had lyrics to it.
You did?
There was. All right.
Anyways, how are you? How was the Nuggets game last night? We're gonna get into it a bunch too, but I just want to see how was it? Your drive home.
Rachel, I'm gonna test your CSU knowledge.
Oh no.
Okay. What is a palindrome?
A what?
Palindrome. What is
my CSU knowledge.
What's that?
This is my CSU knowledge.
Well, it's not a literary term. Jake would know. He's like an English teacher. It's a form of language, or could be numbers. It's a figure that's something. Just say you don't know, and we can hurry this along.
Yeah, teach me something today.
A palindrome it's the same thing forwards and backwards. So the word radar is a palindrome. It's spelled the same way frontwards and backwards.
Yes.
Nikola Jokic last night had 31 points, 11 rebounds, and 13 assists. He had a triple-double palindrome.
And palindrome?
Palindrome.
Drome.
Okay. So if you are the nerdiest of all the nerds, this is kind of cool. Like, you had a sports line palindrome, and I don't think that's easy to do. 31, 11, 13. Same thing frontwards and backwards. It's a triple-double palindrome.
And only Jokic. We're going to get into him a bunch because Zach Bai will be joining the show. We've got a really fun one lined up for you guys today. Like I said, Zach Bai is joining us. Mace will join us a little bit later on in the show too. But D-Mac, I know before the Nuggets, played, we had to talk about the Avs too, because they're finally back, it feels like. Fingers crossed. But Cale Makar was out, which was kind of the big, what the heck happened to Cale Makar? So we're kind of on this edge of, let's hope it's just precautionary, nothing serious, day to day. But they still got the win over the Flames last night. So the Avs, man, let's go.
Yeah, the Makar thing is interesting. I mean, I didn't see anything at the last home game. There's no indications. They had a practice before they went up to Calgary.
Yep.
He is from the Calgary area. That is a home game for him and his family. So it's not like he hasn't played there before. But that certainly feels like a game he would want to participate in. And they're hockey players, Rachel. They never want to sit out. Yep. Now, I know he's had a lot of ice time. He has. And they have a back-to-back coming up against the Canucks and then the Kraken. So it's their, Pacific Northwest sort of series in a back-to-back games. I don't know. It just, I'm like just a scooch. Just a scooch nervous about it. And, we're all gun shy with the Avalanche and injuries. Yeah. So it is interesting. It is interesting. And, of course, there's no further information about it. But that, it makes me just a little bit nervous. I'm glad he went on the trip. I'd be a lot more alarmed if he didn't even go on the trip. So it's hockey, Rachel. You just never know. That being said, 2 goals for Mikko Rantanen last night. A little hockey rule. Like, I didn't quite know this one. If you're with an empty net, if you're breaking in and they say, hey, you're going to score, and they, cause a penalty on you, if they hook you, slash you, knock your stick off, do this to you, you get credit for the goal. Even if the puck doesn't go in. Not a shootout, not nothing, just like, goal. That's a goal. So if you're unabated to the net and it's an empty net and they cause a penalty, it's a goal. So I probably should have known that. It makes a lot of common sense, but that's how the Avs got their goal. And Mikko Rantanen, the fastest guy in franchise history, Colorado Avalanche franchise history, to 30 goals. And now he's got 31. Lehkonen with a couple of goals. And overall, Rachel, a nice explosion right off the bat. Georgiev gets back in, gets the W. Very nice. No, things are nicely rolling for the Avalanche right now. with 5 games left before the All-Star break.
Where's your panic meter? Because obviously, you know, this stretch has helped people be like,
Low.
oh, the Avs, they still got it. They still can figure it out. Where's your panic meter on, hey, making the playoffs or even just, you know, attempting to make it to the second round playoffs?
Listen, I say the panic meter is low. The concern meter is sort of, it's there. There's concern, but certainly not panic. And my confidence meter is way up after these past 3 games. And let's hope, Rachel. Now, I know because I talked to the guys and the coach that they thought the win in Edmonton when they were down 2-0 and played really well and won 3-2. They thought that was going to be the trigger to ongoing success. But then they go and they, drop a horrible game to the Blackhawks. They've won 3 in a row. And it's funny about that Blackhawks game. Talking to Bednar, he says when he went back and watched that Blackhawks game, yeah, the guys were disappointed because the Blackhawks are bad, but he thought they played well in that game. He didn't really think it was a bad game. It was just kind of a bad loss because the opponent was so bad. So they had a little, closed-door meeting, Rachel. It appears they've gotten a little bit more focused, and now they've won 3 in a row. They had 8 games between that game and the All-Star break. That's 16 points. They have 6 out of 16 points right now. Pretty cool. If they can get 12 or 13, I think that would be outstanding. And then they have 7 days off. So I think we should chunk things up. I don't think we should panic. I think concern is okay, but I think you need to focus. You can't take it for granted. And I think the Avs they were just getting over their skis a little bit. I think they were panicking a little bit, and they've really focused in on what they need to do. And Rachel, they played so much better.
Do you think that this closed door meeting was an ass chewing, or do you think it was really going into the tape and being like, all right, here's what's working, here's what's not, let's change it to what we know is having success?
No doubt about it. And I think the players spoke, and, that doesn't happen all that much. I don't think it was an ass chewing at all. I think it's probably a more detailed film review of what they've done right, maybe a little bit of what they've done wrong, and just more of an accountability meeting amongst everybody in the room. Okay, so no, I don't think it was an ass chewing. I think it was, hey guys, here's what's going on. And I know a couple of the leaders of the team, including Mikko Rantanen and Nathan McKinnon, had something to say. And it was, but I don't think it was like, it wasn't, stand up, sit down, like the foolishness we saw up at CU with whoever that tight ends coach guy is. It was just more of a like I said, accountability for what's going on in a good attempt to get focused. They were late to start that practice, although Bednar said, we changed the practice time. Okay. The practice itself, Rachel, that day, I was out there for it. It was really only 20 minutes of intense work on the ice and then some loose skill work. So it wasn't like some sort of crazy, I'm going to kill you, tweet up, tweet back, wah, wah. It's nothing like that. In fact, at that practice and in the locker room afterwards, there was a really good sense of enthusiasm. There was a lightheartedness. There was a good spirit after that. So I think it was nothing but a positive. And the whole cliche of yelling and screaming coaches, Rachel, I'm telling you, that does not work at the professional level. That is the stuff of TV and movies. It just isn't like that. You don't connect with guys on that level with that form of communication style. You don't. You do it with good rational talk and accountability. That's the way it works. That's the way it's always worked.
Gabe Landeskog, we were hoping that he would be back right around this time, like the 12th through the 15th, I think is what we originally heard. And now it's been pushed even a month, but we know he hasn't been on skates. 2 questions. What's your concern level with Gabe? And the other one is, do you know if he's been around the team at all as such a big leader, as like having such an impact? Has he been in the locker room at all to, help this team really move forward out of this slump?
Concern level with Landeskog is very high. At this point, I'm just hoping he's back for the playoffs. I think, listen, they love Gabe. He's the captain. He means everything to him. He's working on his recovery. He's not on vacation. And his recovery is probably, at this point, better served somewhere outside of Denver for whatever reason. So
you don't think he's here?
Well, he wasn't here, Rachel. We know that because Bednar told us that. Yeah. They've gone on this road trip. He's not traveling with them on the road. He did join them in that meeting on like Zoom. Like he was like zoomed in. He was like sort of like, hey, there's, hey, Gabe, it's like virtual Gabe,
Okay.
so he's part of the team as much as he can be and should be, and it's all good. It's all good with Gabe, okay? He doesn't need to be around the team like an assistant coach. Rachel, they're too mature of a team to sort of need that. And frankly, that would be probably dispiriting and a waste of his time. So if he wants to be around, fine. I don't really see Gabe around at the rink when he's, not playing. I really haven't. I've seen a lot of the other injured guys around quite often. I see Bo Byram and Josh Manson like all the time. I haven't seen Gabe. And that doesn't mean, just because I haven't seen him doesn't mean he's around. All it means is he's not quite as visible as some of these other guys. He's dealing with a serious situation, and I swear I'm just kind of hoping at this point, Rachel, I'm hoping for the playoffs. Maybe a week or so before the playoffs so he can get his skates under him. But, the playoffs are long, Rachel, if this team's any good. And he would have enough time to get up to speed, even if he were just to get into that shape during the playoffs itself, which, of course, is exactly what he did last year.
Have we hit halfway mark of the season yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're past that.
Okay. I know we just hit it with the NBA, so there's so many games in both seasons. All right, well, we are excited because Zach Bye is with us. Zach, how are you today? Oh, you're muted, my friend. You're muted. I know.
Wow, that's Richie's fault.
Sending him up for failure.
That is absolutely Richie's fault. Look at Zach. I can see the steam. Look at him. He's getting ticked off.
No. Oh, there he goes. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we can get it back. Hopefully we can, because I'm going to ask him about the palindrome.
Palindrome.
We're going to ask him if Zach Bye knows what a palindrome is. I'll be curious. Will the Avs make a splash at the trade deadline?
Oh, yeah. I
feel like they have to.
I think they have to. Don't you?
Oh, no, I 100% agree. Okay, this is every single time we talk Avs, everybody always asks me this question, and I think it's become very apparent that the Avs should have done everything they could have to keep Nazem Kadri.
Let's see.
Don't you think he's just the depth just wasn't as strong there? It's just
listen, if you believe that right now, okay, I can't really argue with you because it's obviously a choice between Sam Girard and Nazem Kadri, and right now it sure looks like keeping Kadri would be better than Girard. Girard has flashes, and he's a very, very unique defenseman. But to be that unique defenseman, he's got to be profitable in what he can really do, and that's carry the puck through the zone and be more involved with certain scoring plays. And he's been kind of just, very so-so in that department. I think Logan O'Connor has gone like 30 games without a goal. He is really that is a crazy cold streak for Logan O'Connor. So again, that certainly helps you with, hey, you should have kept Kadri. Listen, I'm not going to argue with you about it because there's too much strong evidence. All I would caution is let's wait and see, because the skill set that Girard has can be very, very, very valuable if it works the right way, and you can get production out of, especially I guess Alex Newhook and JT Compher. And Compher's been good. Newhook's been kind of up and down. Newhook seems to be better when he gets smashed in the face. So that's a weird sort of key to his success. I understand how people feel about that. At the end of the day, the Flames and the Avs are kind of in the same place in the standings. They're sort of the same team right now. So it kind of seems like a little bit of a push. And we'll see what the Avalanche decide to add. Evan Rodriguez is having his best career year ever. Evan Rodriguez is actually playing great. So, Rachel, we'll see. We'll see. But I miss Kadri too. He was my favorite guy last year. I miss him a ton.
Well, and I say that too because your championship window is so small. And I know Nazem probably would never have signed a 1-year contract or whatever it would have been, but I feel like it's so small that you usually have to keep those core members together. And I'm sorry, when you look at that team, that was Nazem Kadri in the mix with those guys. So that's why I say it. But we do believe Zach Bye is back, so we want to get into this Nuggets talk. So hopefully he is. Can you hear me? No, we still can't hear him. I can see you talking. I see Richie in the background being like, what is going on? Well, Jack, just give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the game last night. All right. Well, on that note, that was fun.
Zach, hold on. Wait, oh, Zach's gone. I was going to ask him to walk into the wind.
Right. I don't know why it's not working for him. That's a huge bummer.
How could we be talking to Richie 5 seconds and then Zach just sits down in Richie's chair and it doesn't work?
I know. We're hoping, we're going to try really hard to get him back. We might just have to have him use his phone. So Jake, I don't know if you can reach out to him, have him just use his phone. Let's just talk to him for a few minutes because we did have
Wait
a lot
second, Rachel, how does this not work? I'm in my kitchen on my iPhone. I mean, what are we doing here?
I know, technology. It's a huge pain in the butt. I never know what's going on. I could see different things, but hopefully we get him because I do want to ask Zach about it. Last night's Nuggets game was really fun. That's one of those games where you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it was kind of a bizarre game. I feel like
Rachel, it was a terrible game until it had a great ending. All right, here's Zach. Here's Zach.
Can you hear us now?
Come on, Zach.
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We had a bit of a technical difficulty. Everything looks normal. But yeah, anyway, I'm here.
We got you. Okay, first of all, how are you? It's been a while since we talked to you.
Doing good. I'm not sure I'm doing as good as the Nuggets, but I'm doing pretty stinking good.
All right. So what's your main takeaway on the Nuggets? Obviously, Jokic is fantastic. He's been so fun to watch. His supporting cast around him is just incredible. And the depth of this team is also unbelievable right now. But what's your biggest takeaway when you just look at the Nuggets as a whole is you're like, hey, they could really win a championship this year?
Yeah, I think that in essence is the biggest takeaway. When you look at past champions in the NBA, there's a certain kind of construct that nearly all of them have. And that is you have to have a top 5 to 7 player in the NBA on your championship team. The Nuggets have that. You have to have a secondary all-star. The Nuggets have that. Whether Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray actually gets, the all-star label this year, I think Aaron Gordon should. Whether that ends up happening or not is sort of besides the point. That type of structure is there. Is your fourth option a second option on half of the teams in the NBA? I think that's the case here with Michael Porter Jr. What does your depth look like off the bench? Well, it looks like, something along the lines that the Nuggets have. Do you have experience in the climb? NHL and NFL are, if you get in, man, anything can happen. In the NBA, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't historically. Very unusual is a case like the Toronto Raptors that, make a big trade and one group can make a playoff run like they did. Typically, it's the same groups with changes around the peripheral that have been on this climb. So the Nuggets have that as well. And then they also don't have a lot of young players. This is a really experienced group that has been through some fires. And then you add in guys like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who has literally crossed the finish line. You just look at this setup. You have a top-tier player in Jokic, MVP. You have multiple secondary all-star caliber players. You have a fourth option that any given night can propel you for an entire quarter or half in Michael Porter Jr. You have the depth coming off the bench. You have experience. You have a head coach who has gone through trials in Michael Malone. So I just look at historically what championship teams look like. And this Nuggets team looks as close to the champions that I know in this league, closer than any other point in the history of this organization.
It's so fun to watch too. We've talked about it a ton of, sometimes when you're in the moment, you're not understanding the greatness. So unfortunately, it always happens after when you kind of get that greatness. But there is lots of talk. And we had actually a viewer yesterday ask the question, with MPJ now coming around, Zach, do they still need to look to make a move by the trade deadline? Or are you saying stick with the squad you have and let the chemistry work out?
You know what? I'll give you my real answer. I don't know. Okay. And I say that because this team is playing as well as any team in the NBA. It's playing as well as this team has played at any point in their franchise's history. Talking about 8 wins in a row and 15 straight at home. And I think it's now 20 of their last 23. They're a league best 21-3 at home now. I mean, they're just remarkable. So the reason I say I don't know is, do you really want to tinker with that? But also, you don't want to rest on your laurels, because I just don't feel really comfortable still with the backup center position. Zeke Naji has kind of taken over that role here in the last couple of weeks. DeAndre Jordan sort of on the outside looking in. Do you trust Zeke Naji in a playoff series? I do not right now, as as encouraging as his, effort and vigor is on the offensive rebounding side of things and flashes here and there. Playoff basketball is almost it's like a distant relative to regular season NBA basketball. And do I trust that guy in that role, whether it's DeAndre or Zeke? Not really sure. Would you feel better if it was a Mason Plumlee back there, a Nerlens Noel back there? Probably so. But at the same time, Zeke's kind of coming along, and do you cut him out of the rotation? So we don't know the answers to that in a concrete fashion, that I want to deliver it to you. But the fact that I don't know, let me answer it like this. The fact that I don't know, because I'm so encouraged what I'm seeing from this group over the last month, is kind of almost the point right now, that you're kind of like free rolling with the group that you have right now. So how does Calvin Booth want to operate? Man, that is a tricky one, because you don't just want to sit back and say, hey, we like what we're seeing in the month of January, because the opportunity to win a championship is so unique and the window seems so rare right now that you kind of need to walk that line of like being satisfied and really encouraged, but also staying hungry. And what if you make a trade and you tinker with that vibe that you have going right now? So I really don't know what the answer is right now. This is really challenging for Calvin Booth.
Jake, real quick, D-Mac, just the stat. Jake always does fantastic research on the back end. He goes MPJ, Jokic, AG, Brown, KCP is the best defensive 5-man unit in the NBA this year by a net rating, a minimum of 100 minutes played. They have a league best plus 22 on the court. D-Mac, go ahead.
Yeah, like last night was terrible. It was a bad game. I think there was something crazy like 46 fouls, 2 reviews. The game was 2.5 hours long with an 8 o'clock start. There was no flow to it. But yet Jokic still puts up, 31, 11, and 13, which is nuts. He breaks, what's amazing? He breaks the record for assists. A center bringing for career assists for the Nuggets. And afterwards, he took real joy in it. He wants to be the best teammate. He talked about that a lot and why that meant so much to him. So to Zach's point, are we sure we want to mess around with the chemistry with this team the way they're operating right now? And even DeAndre Jordan, who I get it in terms of being a hooper, has seen his better days. But you got to see his energy and enthusiasm on the bench in terms of trying to guide specifically Zeke Naji. And I get it. It's a bottom line business in the playoffs. And maybe Nerlens Noel is better than Zeke Naji. But, guys, I am telling you, this team is thick as thieves, man. They are bonded close together. They've talked about it endlessly. And they are learning lessons while winning games. Do you know what a big difference that is to learn your lesson? Oh, can't do that. Got to be better here, this, that, and still win? I mean, that's bonkers. And they're just doing it over and over and over again. They're putting up 120 points at home, Zach and Rachel, a million different ways. Michael Porter Jr. was great 2 nights ago, 22 minutes, 4 points yesterday. He was a ghost, and he didn't close the game. Bruce Brown did. So what? They still won. They went on a 9-0 run at the end of the game in the last 2 minutes to win a game they should not have won. That was bonkers. To a team that had beat them 4 previous times in a row. The Wolves, and even the Wolves JV team, have had their number until last night. It's bananas what's happening down there.
And it's so much fun. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, that's a game, to D-Mac's point. That's a game in years past, and watching this team very closely for the last half a decade. They lose that game last night. They lose it. They absolutely lose it. It's the think about this. It's the second night of a back-to-back against the Bugaboo team that has a lead late in the fourth quarter. And really, it only took about a minute to 2 minutes for the Nuggets to hit some shots, go on a run, take the lead, and never give it back. Again, and Jokic talked about it this past week. and we know just this cover in sports, we don't need Jokic to tell us, but I thought it was telling when it does come from him, when he says, look, we are becoming the team that knows and has learned how to win games because we're a good team. Even when we don't play well, we'll still find a way to win. And bad teams, a la the Broncos, even on days that they play well, will still find ways to lose. The Nuggets are the antithesis of that, and they have turned into that through a growth process. That's why in the NBA, I always refer to this climb, because historically, you have to go through some stuff to be battle tested, have that metal, have that sort of DNA that's sort of forged through fire. And after, this group, this core with and you can even throw in AG. This is third season now, I think, with the Nuggets, 2.5.
Yeah.
Like, this core group has been together for years. And even the guys that have been added, the Bruce Browns, the KCPs, they've been through some real NBA stuff. They are not new. So this is a perfect team that I'll say, what word I'll use in this moment is like they have real harmony right now. They are a connected group, and you're seeing that. And man, if you can learn, you can look at a tape and say, man, we did this wrong. We did this wrong. We were out of control with the fouling, and then, but we, still won against a team that had beat us 4 straight times. That's pretty telling to where the Nuggets are at right now in their journey.
I just got to tell you last night real quick, Jokic in foul trouble. He's never in foul trouble.
Yep.
AG in foul trouble. Rare. Both have to take massive time out on the bench. They were down by 10 in the second half. There were 8 players from the Wolves in double digits, and a 9th player had 9 points. They scored 118 points on the road in the most well-balanced attack you can imagine. And they lost.
Yep.
I mean, this is bonkers. I think Jokic was something, Zach, like plus 20 something or other. I mean, it was crazy. If he isn't in foul territory, foul trouble, they cruised last night, and still somehow they won. It was crazy.
Anytime you're about plus 20 in a 4-point game, pretty telling. I don't need all the advanced numbers, although they're useful in making a case. I don't need any advanced numbers to make a case for Jokic. His on-off numbers, his plus-minus numbers, his raw numbers, they're eye-popping. So I say what I said last year and then the season before that. The raw numbers yell it. The advanced numbers scream it. He's your MVP. It's going to be for a 3rd straight year.
Zach, really quick. I thought of you this morning when I woke up, and it's a minus number on MVP.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yep. If you placed a bet on
minus
1 month ago for $100, you win over $2,000. Today, you place a bet on a $100 bet to win the MVP. You make $98 back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, ridiculous. Real quick, Zach, because I know you have to go. Do you know what a palindrome
Palindrome
is?
A palindrome?
Yeah.
Yep.
No clue.
It's okay. I didn't either, so you're good.
It's the same thing forwards as backwards. The word radar, same thing backwards, forwards. Jokic, 31, 11, 13. He had a palindrome triple-double last night.
Perfect. The more you know.
All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate the time. And Nikola Jokic becoming the Nuggets all-time assist leader. He says, to be honest, maybe that's the first thing I'm kind of proud of, just because hopefully my teammates love to play with me because I share the ball. So maybe that's the first time I was kind of proud, probably. Oh my God, does that just not like pull at your heartstrings a little bit that he's won MVP twice and here he is and he's like, you know what? I hope my teammates enjoy playing with me, and that's the first time I'm proud.
I asked him about that after the game, Rachel. I asked Jokic, does it mean more to you to have this than to win the MVP? And he kind of sidestepped it just a pinch because he said, well, the MVP is an award. The assists are an accomplishment. The assists are something you do that you're a part of. So what he was really saying is kind of like two different things. But you could tell that he was touched by it. He got a game ball. He said all of his teammates would sign the ball because the assists are about getting the ball to your teammates. Alex English, whose record he broke, had some really nice things to say about him online afterwards. And it was just a really cool moment. And I'll give you a little twist, too. They gave him an assist to get the record. Then they took it away. And, and then he had to get the assist later on. It was just statistically kind of a weird moment that is like, oh, there it is. There's the assist. And then it's like 2 seconds later, it's gone. So it was a statistical adjustment. I mean, he got it later and then some. He needed 7 to set the record. He got 13. But it was just a weird little moment. So when he was recognized for the assist, Rachel, it was kind of fuzzy when he got it. And we knew it. The Muggles knew it. And we were, writing about it. But it wasn't announced in the crowd until much after. And it wasn't announced until he was sitting on the bench. And but he had a little coy smile, was getting dapped up. But they were like losing at the time. So he's sitting on the bench losing, being recognized. It was just another weird moment. And that might have been the smallest crowd of the year, Rachel. It was announced at 16,000, but you know how those announcements go. You couldn't tell, Rachel, at the end of the game, it felt like there were 19,000 people sold out, crazy. That crowd was amazing last night. Even though it wasn't large in population, it was loud in volume.
And Jake Shapiro wrote about it at denversports.com. So definitely make sure you check out the article as well. And we now welcome in our very own friend. That is the Andrew Mason, our senior Broncos writer over there at Denver Sports. Mace, how are you this morning?
I'm just peachy. How are y'all doing?
I'm good. I'm happy. The Avs got to win. The Nuggets got to win. I'm a bit concerned because there's talk about New Orleans possibly wanting 2 first-rounders for Sean Payton. Adam Schefter this morning said, no, I don't see how that's going to be. So I need to know from your perspective, is that true? Is it false? Or do we really just not know and it's all speculation at this point?
I think it's all speculation. Now, I think it's possible that there is a Carolina price and a rest of the NFL price because, of course, Carolina is in the same division as the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints would have to see Sean Payton twice a year if he ends up going to the Panthers. Whereas with the Broncos, potentially that's, a game every 4 years. And maybe you see him in the Super Bowl if everything kind of works out. So I think it's possible that we're looking at one price point for them and one price point for other teams in the mix. But at the same time, Mickey Loomis, the Saints GM, has said on the record that it's important for him to maximize what Sean Payton is worth to the New Orleans Saints to get back as much as they can. So is it possible that they're looking and saying, well, if we can get more from Carolina, which may be an even more desperate spot than the Denver Broncos, maybe we take that. So it's all the only person who really knows what he wants from this deal is the GM of the Saints, Mickey Loomis.
Okay. It makes me a little nervous, and we're going to get into this in just a little bit too. But you kind of go back and you look at the first round picks for the Broncos over the last couple of years, and you're like, like one of them, could you afford to give up? Okay, so let's just go through the list real quick, you guys, because I'm very curious. No Sean Marino, was he worth the first round pick?
Yeah, no, yeah, sure. You went to Super Bowls, no Sean, he was a quality running back.
Eventually, yeah.
Robert Ayers, everything's in balance because he was the second of 2 first-round picks, and you'll get to Demaryius Thomas and Tim Tebow. But I thought Robert Ayers was very solid. He wasn't spectacular, but he was very solid.
Mm-hmm.
He was solid, but at the same time, part of the reason they drafted Von Miller was because Ayers wasn't what they expected to be. So I'd say he's borderline. I'll say.
Yeah, but he was. Where was he taken? I can't even say what number was he
18.
taken? 18. Yeah, 18. He was. It's a little bit deeper.
Okay, Demaryius Thomas. I think we would all agree that this is
home run.
Yes.
Yep.
This next one though, Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is interesting for me, so I want to get your guys' opinion. Was he worth the first round pick? And he's kind of at close to the spot of where they would possibly get a first round if they keep it this year, because I think they're at 28 right now and they got him at 25.
Taking a quarterback in the 20s is close to the stupidest thing that you can do. It is a dumb idea. It always has been a dumb idea. Only 2 teams have done it 3 times, the Broncos and the Browns, and it's been bad every single time. The Browns with Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, and Brady Quinn. The Broncos with Tommy Maddox, Tim Tebow, and who am I forgetting? Somebody else.
Some guy named Paxton Lynch.
Paxton Lynch. Oh, my God. How could I forget Paxton Lynch? So there you go. How about that Hall of Fame status from those 6 guys? It's a dumb idea. That being said, I am so grateful every day for the existence of Tim Tebow with the Denver Broncos because he made a miserable time for that team, the McDaniels era, palpable. And it did give us absolutely probably one of the top 3 Broncos moments of all time at home, which was the overtime pass to DT against the Steelers.
So you're saying it's worth it.
Sorry.
No, you're
Yeah, it was worth it because they didn't really have a better plan because Josh McDaniels chased away first-round pick Jay Cutler. And, it was like, what are we doing here? So in lieu of doing something so stupid as chasing away Mike Shanahan's first-round draft pick, just when he was sort of, when you become good, which Jay Cutler was good. He's not a great guy. He probably was maybe a bad pick in the first place because of his personality. But still, it doesn't mean he wasn't being a good quarterback. Then you bring in schlumpy Kyle Orton. No, Tim Tebow was exciting. It brought a breath of freshness. Was it a good long-term plan? Hell no. And once you got Peyton Manning, get rid of Tebow. So, but it was all exciting, Rachel and Mace. I mean, they won games with Tebow. They won the AFC West with Tebow. They won a playoff game with Tebow. Imagine what we would give for something like that right now. A 500 record and a playoff win? Are you kidding me? We would be building statues of Russell Wilson if that happened right now.
Well, you mentioned Peyton, and the big thing about Tim Tebow and why that pick actually was valuable to the Broncos is it basically opened Peyton Manning's eyes to the Denver Broncos. If they go 3-13 that year, 4-12, I don't think Peyton's coming to Denver. But they go 8-8 in spite of having a quarterback who couldn't complete 50% of his passes. They found ways to win games in unlikely fashion. All of a sudden, Peyton could look at the potential destinations and say, wow, if they could do that with Tebow, what could I do? So,
well, let's not sneeze on because I'll tell you what they did have. First of all, they had the number 1 running game in the NFL, and they had a tremendous offensive line, okay? And don't tell me we wouldn't love that right now, too. So, yeah, I get the weaknesses with Tebow, but they did figure out ways to win. And because he was mobile enough to pick up first downs and convert in the red zone, it did give the team creative and interesting flexibility that this team doesn't have right now. So listen, we have a better version, shorter version of Tim Tebow right now. The best thing to make Russell Wilson work is to Tebowize him, period. Make sure you have a power aggressive running game and really do put him in a position where he gets outside of the pocket and runs and can convert third downs and in the red zone. We have a mini Tebow in Russell Wilson, and that, my friends, is the best chance to succeed, to Tebowize Russell Wilson.
Wow.
It always seems to come up one way or another. D-Mac, I'm not trying to pick on you, but you mentioned that Russell Wilson is short. And then somehow Tebow gets brought into the mix too. I feel like almost every single time we talk about Russell Wilson.
He won games, Rachel. Look at his start. Look at his win-loss record. Look at his playoff record. I get it. Not long-term. Nothing compared to Peyton Manning. I get it. But, I mean, would you rather have Tim Tebow or Josh Johnson? Tim Tebow or Brett Rippon? Tim Tebow or Trevor Siemian? I could go on, man. Tim Tebow or Joe Flacco, Case Keenum. I mean, I would take Tebow over all of those guys. There's not one guy we've had since Manning left that I wouldn't take Tebow over.
Wow. Okay. Real quick, some breaking news. Greg Roman is out as the Ravens offensive coordinator. Interesting. Very interesting there. Okay. But I do want to go back to this list. Von Miller, we can all agree. What about Sylvester Williams, you guys? Is that a bad one? I mean, that's number 28. That's where the Broncos would be picking right now.
Okay. That was a really bad draft, was 13.
It was.
Like, if you look at the first round, it's bust, bust, bust. You got a 4-year starter out of that pick. That was as well as you were going to do. I think that's fine. Sylvester
Williams was a starting, contributing player in a Super Bowl year. I'll take it. And like you said, it was 28. What are we hoping for there? And don't forget, Sylvester Williams was a bit older coming into the draft, period. So you really did get the best years out of Sylvester Williams. I really don't have a problem with that pick at all.
Okay, so for these next 3, just because the show goes by way too fast, I want to do it like rapid fire. So say yes or no. All right. Bradley Roby.
Yes.
Yes.
Shane Ray.
No.
Paxton Lynch.
No. Terrible.
Hell no.
What a terrible.
Garrett Bowles.
Yes.
Sort of.
Noah Fant.
No.
No.
Jerry Jeudy.
Yes.
Yes.
And then Patrick Surtain.
No.
Yes.
Context, baby. Context, baby. Relative value. Terrible pick.
Didn't you
Great
say yes
player.
on Patrick
Hey,
can't
Surtain?
hold that against the player.
Are we talking about the quality of the player or the quality of the pick?
That's hard because technically we are looking at like overall, can they afford to give up the first rounder for Sean Payton? But it's also what Mace said is it's hard to let that affect like everything that goes around doesn't take away from what Patrick.
Are you asking me if I would give up Patrick Surtain for Sean Payton?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so then you're okay giving up a first round pick. You would be okay giving up any of those guys to get Sean Payton to
Yeah,
come
but
be-
like again,
Two of those guys, potentially, too.
again, it's context is really important here because I would not be okay giving up a high quality quarterback if I didn't have a quarterback for a coach. I would not be okay with that.
But you're not getting a high quality because they're picking like 28th right now.
Right. So fine. Who cares? It's, whatever you want to do. I certainly wouldn't give up 2 first-round picks. That's ludicrous.
Yeah.
And Mickey Loomis, Ludicrous Loomis, can say whatever he wants. I want to be able to dunk. So what? I want my cats to love me. It's not going to happen. So, you can want a lot of things. At the end of the day, Sean Payton is going to dictate his own terms for being traded for, period. Because if he doesn't like it, if he doesn't want to go somewhere, he's just going to make $10 million a year to be on TV. It's all in Sean Payton's hands.
But the thing is, the Saints have another year of control as well. That's the thing. So if they don't like a deal this year, like if Sean Payton says, I want to go to Denver, we can't get enough, then it's all right, try again next year when you might have 2 LA jobs open.
Right, exactly. There'll be 5 openings next year, the year after, and every year from now on. And Sean Payton, until he takes a job back in the NFL, because he's only 59 years old, I think, or 57, 59. 59. He's fine if he wants to keep doing this. So I'm not even worried about it. He's going to coach. The Saints are going to deal with somebody. The deal's going to be with the Panthers or the Broncos, and we'll find out here in a few days.
Well, we do know that they're going to be for the Broncos a second round of interviews next week, according to Mike Kliss. But here's what's really interesting about it. George Payton will not be in the room for the second round interviews. He will be outside able to answer any questions and to show a tour of the facilities. So the Walton Penner ownership group will be Greg Penner, Carrie Ann Walton Penner, and then
Rob
Walton.
I was thinking Robton, right? What is it?
Rob Robton.
Whatever. Anyway, those 3 will be in the room for it. So did George Payton really just get chopped at the knees and that was it?
A little bit, but I think part of this is you want to have a conversation with the coaching candidate without George Payton in the room because because this is where you kind of get the honesty. Like, let's say it's Sean Payton. All right, Sean, who do you really want running personnel if it's your job? Same for anybody. Are you fine with George Payton, or maybe you got someone else in mind? With Sean Payton's almost certainly Ryan Pace, right? So that's the thing. You're not going to get that honesty with George Payton in the room, which is why you go back a couple of years when they were interviewing for general managers, and it was so awkward that Vic Fangio was in the interview process. It's so that you're getting back that you're getting past that, and then George Payton gets to do the tour guide. We're walking, we're stopping.
First of all, I'll believe it's a real second interview if more than one person comes here. I have a feeling this is it's just going through the process. It's it's not that big of a deal unless there's 2 people through the process. If there's 2 people or more going through second interviews, all right, okay, it's George Payton really being sidelined. If it's really just, Sean Payton and that's it that comes in, no, I wouldn't look anything into it. It would just be a chance for the two primary owners of the team that have put in their money to get to know the new guy. That's it. I really wouldn't think much about it whatsoever. The fact that even little details like that came out, now that's kind of interesting. And there's more I want to say, but maybe I'll just leave it there. Like we're all right based on the report and how it was reported to find it interesting.
No, I agree. Yes, I think you could go like this. Interesting.
It's another sign that maybe what you are looking at is something that we've talked about, which is George Payton leading this team through the draft process. And then if a change is made, it comes for the next draft cycle.
Man, I think that's I think George
Payton hates that. I know.
I think he sticks around. I think he has spent his whole life being an assistant GM, and he'll easily go back to more or less that role. And he'll be out the blue-gray senior, biscuit bowl, with you, Mace, and with Cecil, and be happy as a clam to be back into that role. I think he loves it. I think he loves being on the road. I think he loves, figuring out who the next Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper are going to be. I think, and frankly, you do need somebody to do that. What you don't need anymore is George Payton making major decisions. But you do need to find the Jonathan Cooper, Baron Brownings of the world. You do. And he's done, okay, I could do auto draft and find it too, but he's done that. And at least he knows what hotel reservations to make in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl.
The blue-gray game doesn't exist for college guys anymore, by the way, D-Mac.
I don't think the Browning Biscuit Bowl exists either, Mace, but you kind of get my point.
It's the Shrine Bowl, and there was the Hula Bowl last week, and the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl.
Listen, somebody's going to have to go to Alabama Tuscaloosa Senior Day, Pro Day, and George Payton is going to be excited because then he can bop over to Tennessee Chattanooga Pro Bowl Day, and then he can go to the South Savannah State Pro Bowl, Pro Day, and he's going to be satisfied. His wife will send him telegrams on Western Union Pony Express, and he'll be like, deet, 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 deet. My wife says hi. I'll see her in a month. And you know what? That's his life. That's what he's done. Go back to that, and we'll take care of the rest of the stuff.
Okay, I did just see a question, which I think is interesting, and it says, Payton quit. We're talking Sean Payton. Why do we want him? That's true. He did just decide things.
By the way, he is not my number one guy. My number one guy is David Shaw. I'd rather have David Shaw than Sean Payton. So he is not my number one guy.
Mace?
I'd rather have, I would rather have Dan Quinn. I would rather have Jim Caldwell. I don't think Sean Payton is a first-round pick and another pick, or certainly not 2 first-round picks better than these alternatives. Yes, you're bringing Sean Payton to help Russell Wilson to get him right. Well, Jim Caldwell's a QB guru. He's done well with every starting quarterback he's worked with for the last 2 decades. Dan Quinn will almost certainly bring somebody who Russ knows, either Brian Schottenheimer or Darrell Bevel. So I don't think that the path to getting Russ right and fixing him exclusively goes through Sean Payton.
I completely agree. I think whoever sent that in, I think that's a very bright comment. Yeah. I think that the guy did tap out and took the easy, cushy TV money. I actually do think that's a red flag. I've heard some interesting rumors that Sean Payton is, I don't know. I know where that person's going, and I think it's a fair point. I do wonder where this guy is in his life. That he wins at one place, then he went another. I think, it's guys, it's great being flattered. Being offered the job sometimes is it's awesome taking like the prettiest girl to the dance, and then you realize she's got bad breath. It's probably, but I'm sure it's his fault. And then you're at the dance and you're like, how do I get out of here? And
the only reason I think you could even say the dancing and the girl with the bad breath, how did that situation even come up in your head? I'm assuming that this has happened to you at some point.
I'll leave specific names out of it.
Okay.
You might probably just throw like things like that out there.
Hey, listen. I was desperate. I made out with her at the dance anyways. whatever.
Yes, but as Tommy says in the comments section, bad breath can be fixable, right? I mean, you can put some mouthwash in, right, and then you're good to go.
The greatest comment ever. If somebody says, you're fat or something, well, I can lose weight. You're still going to be ugly.
I was going to say, Giovanni says it's like a marriage. He has the right to walk away as well and start dating again. LOL.
Hey, fair enough. But if people are wondering if he has the same motivation he once had, I think that's a fair evaluation too. Right. I think it's all fair.
Look, no coach has ever gone to another team after winning a Super Bowl as a head coach for the previous team and done it somewhere else.
Nobody.
Bill Parcells got there and lost. Mike Holmgren got there and lost. But you can look at some other examples, like Tom Flores was a disaster in Seattle after winning 2 Super Bowls with the Raiders, and then George Seifert probably coached his way out of a Hall of Fame spot when he tried for a second act with Carolina. Honestly, I'm more interested in the coaches that have been there that didn't get it done, because with someone like Jim Caldwell or Dan Quinn, there's very much an unfinished business vibe that I get from these two.
That's why my guy is David Shaw, because it's about rebuilding a culture. And I think what he did to rebuild the culture of Stanford, when things in college were on a much more even playing field, and he did it when he had high quality players like Thomas Solomon, Andrew Luck, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, to even a degree, Kevin Hogan, who was, a backup NFL quarterback. What he did with guys like that, that's what he should be judged on, not this COVID, NIL, transfer portal time that has ridiculously, changed. I won't say ruined, because the kids are getting paid, which they deserve to, but it certainly changed things for a place like Stanford. So I wouldn't evaluate him on these past 3 years whatsoever. I don't think it's a fair comparison. Look at when things were equal and what he did with pro-level talent, running a pro system at Stanford, and most importantly, a fantastic culture based on something bigger than cheating, doing things the right way, doing things an organized way, not looking for shortcuts. And I think the Broncos have been looking for shortcuts for the past 7 years, and it's failed them miserably. So David Shaw is actually my number one guy, because I want somebody to recreate this culture, and I trust him to hire the right people.
And he does have NFL experience as an assistant coach too. So this is not Urban Meyer walking in and like, oh, I've never been in this environment before. This is somebody who it wasn't just there for a year, was in the NFL for close to a decade. He knows the landscape. He understands pro players. He really did run a pro style program at Stanford. It's going to translate if he gets a shot.
And let me tell you one other really quick thing, and we're going to get on the psychiatrist's couch here. How many times did we hear Russell Wilson talk about how impactful his father was in his life? And his father sadly passed away when Russell was very young. Nathaniel Hackett was trying to be Russell Wilson's buddy. He doesn't need that. He's got plenty of sycophants to do that for him. In my opinion, what Russell Wilson needs is a significant, meaningful father figure to guide him. Not somebody to be his best friend, not somebody to kiss his butt, somebody who'll give him a hug, but also kick his butt. All you got were hugs from Hackett. And I think David Shaw is and we don't need coaches yelling and screaming like lunatics, like the tight ends coach at CU. Stand up, sit down. No. You need a more measured approach to getting the best out of Russell Wilson. And again, I don't know if Dan Quinn can do that. I really don't. And Sean
I know
Payton,
Caldwell could, though. I know Jim Caldwell absolutely could be that kind of figure that you're talking about.
I'm going to go back to motivation too, Mace. I mean, Caldwell's 67 years old, dude. I think David Shaw's 50. I think there's a big difference there.
Well, the thing is, though, I mean, Caldwell may regard it like this is my last shot to do what I didn't do before.
I don't like that either, though, man. Listen. All right. I'm not going to put it down because Jim Caldwell has certainly earned all of our respect.
I mean,
Fine.
he won in Detroit.
I'm saying fine. I'm not arguing with you, but I'm just advocating for my guy. I'll just leave it there. It's nothing against Jim Caldwell. I'm thrilled this morning to read about David Shaw being a legit finalist, and I'm hoping they go down that path because I was looking for a culture reset from Harbaugh, and I think the next closest guy for a culture reset is David Shaw, not Sean Payton, and he's not going to cost you as much money, and he's not going to cost you draft picks.
That's the big one, the draft picks right there. Okay, Mace, what are we working on at denversports.com?
Continuing our State of the Roster series, you can go read about quarterbacks, and it's about more than Russ. It's about Brett Rippon as well. The Broncos, in my opinion, need a better backup, especially if they're going to ask Russ to run the ball more, subject him to injury. It might be like the Braves with Chipper Jones toward the end of his career when he could still hit 300, but you had to count on him missing 40 games a year just because he was old and getting hurt. You might have to count on that with Russell Wilson now that he's missed multiple games in back-to-back years. So you need a good backup. And unfortunately, Brett Rippon was a lower-tier backup, as you can read at denversports.com. Next I've got coming up, I'm working on running backs right now and where that stands.
Okay, well, everyone definitely check out denversports.com. And tomorrow, we're actually going to get into that question right there. What does DMAC think about the Broncos replacing Brett Rippon? We'll do that tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Come hang out with us. As always, an absolute pleasure. Thanks, everybody in the comments. Mace, to Zach Bye as well. Thank you guys for hopping on, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful Thursday, everybody. See you then.
Pray for the love of my cats.